Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Event Masters. This is the show where we take event producers to event masters. We have an awesome guest, actually two guests from the ViewStub team, so you guys are in for a treat this week. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the show, EventMASTERS. You need to listen to this if you want to throw bigger and better events. Learn how to monetize and land bigger racks. Yeah, this is where you can learn how to do that. EventMASTERs.
What is up, Dylan?
Dude, it's another Friday, another show.
Well, last Friday was special, so
last Friday was extra special.
Yeah, so we're actually back to our regular program now. So
we did do, for those of you who missed though last week, did do an episode of Event Masters at EventNEXT, and it was had with the amazing Adam Perry. So we dug deep into event tech and event trends and things like that in his world. So that one was fun to do, but this week is going to be really fun to do because we get to break down everything we did last week. So before we hop into that, guys, make sure you are liking, subscribing, and following at Event Masters Show on all social media. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, soon to be Amazon if you're audio folks. But look, we're not going to waste a lot of time today, Patrick. You ready to go ahead and bring up these gentlemen and dive into today's episode?
Let's do it. I think some of you guys know who these gentlemen are. If not, we'll give a great intro, though.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they should know the first one. So we'll go ahead and bring up, there's this guy that he pokes around every once in a while. He was on stage the whole time, right? You saw his face all day at EventNEXT. But now you actually get to interact with him. He's made a special appearance on this show before, if you don't remember, Patrick, in Orlando.
Episode number...
It was episode 2.
Yeah, episode
he was like,
number 2.
Yeah, showed a little cameo. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring up co-founder of ViewStub, Spencer Elliott.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up, man?
Going good. I love the intro music. Still, it's my favorite song.
Glad to have you on the show finally, being as this is an extension of you and everything we've built here. So glad to have you.
Instead of a background image or a background appearance.
Popping in and popping out.
I'm jealous. I don't have a cartoon image of myself.
We're gonna get. Dude, we're gonna get you one for the mastermind and everything. It's already in the works.
All right, cool.
That one's taking care of it.
Yeah, I got you handled, man. So last but not least, I want to bring up another very integral part of everything EventNEXT related. A lot so on the he's been there from inception and all the way to helping us market, get all of you guys there. If you saw any of the creative or the ads or the copy or anything, it probably came from somewhere in this guy's brain. So let's go ahead. He was also on the marketing panel at EventNEXT. Good Lord, I almost forgot. So let's go ahead and bring up Mitch Buchanan, our director of marketing here at ViewStub.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here, even though I guess I'm always here, right? But happy to be on screen today.
You are always here. That's another factoid about him. He's always here at Event Masters, as he's been producing this show for a few weeks now. And we're passing the baton off to another member of our marketing team here soon. So I'm excited, gentlemen. This is the team. Well, actually, not even the team, okay? Because I want to preface this with, I counted. I don't know if you gentlemen have yet or not. I'm still doing some final tallying, but I counted over 32 plus people. I think there's a couple more, actually. 32 plus people who had a direct involvement on this event from the planning, coordination, and marketing side. 32 humans.
Not even including speakers either. That's a...
If you start to add in speakers and exhibitors and marketing partners, we're over 75 humans and 75 organizations who came together for one day at EventNEXT to help us bring together our first ever event. So I want to actually give the floor to these three gentlemen today. I'm going to be asking questions because I got involved in EventNEXT a few months ago. But the story of EventNEXT starts, Spencer, what, two years ago almost?
Yeah, at least. I remember the original date for the event was in August of 2020. So, a year before that, we were planning it, at least.
I remember I was hearing rumblings and murmurs and chatting with Patrick way before I even joined the team. He's like, hey, we're going to do this event mega conference. And I'm like, all right, hey, ambitious, love it. So let's track back to that. I want to hear it from you because I know you had a big big idea and the insight to do the event itself. So why did you, way back then, you guys were at that time, a startup, right? You have 4,200 other projects to be doing, I imagine. What made you want to go, all right, we're going to throw a conference of all things?
Was that for me?
That's for you, son. That's for you.
I know we really wanted to walk our own talk. Was one of the major things. We really wanted to be able to represent ourselves as one of the leaders in the industry, as a thought leader. And, we also had to pay for every other conference that we were going to and attending at and exhibiting at. So we thought, why don't we use that money and host our own? It was originally going to be, something that we created revenue from as well, not just from exposure and conversions at the event, but also from sponsorships and registrations. And that ended up not being, our main focus when we did this last event. But I remember when we first started, it was definitely one of the main goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you approached it from looking at the industry as a whole, going, okay, I want to add value to the industry, not just like throw it as ViewStub or anything. It's EventNEXT. It's a whole separate entity almost that you wanted to provide access to this kind of content, this education, this kind of networking, collaboration efforts to the industry as a whole, right? So that's where it started. And then I think that's where it will always be.
You're right about that. We certainly wanted to be in the background. We never wanted it to be a ViewStub user conference. I think you're right in that we were a startup. We didn't think we had enough users to even have a ViewStub user conference. But we certainly wanted to push everyone else to the front. And it was really all about education. We really wanted to help everyone understand what hybrid events were. And so we thought, what better way to have our own hybrid event and have our own conference where everyone can come and learn about it. And we had so many great partners that we just wanted to put them all together in the same room, so to speak, and have fun while doing it. We were, looking at, the pre-event and the post-event, and there's a lot of fun that goes into hosting conferences as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like how you say walk the talk, right? And we talk about this a lot internally, is like, we're in a virtual hybrid event solution, right? The best way to make your name in this industry is to walk the talk, right? It's easy to talk, it's harder to walk. And I love how that was thought about. So let's fast forward to you, and I'm gonna move this over to Patrick. 2020 didn't go as planned. I don't know if you were there. So
not for me. No.
What happened in that time frame? Because as Spencer said, man, August was the 7th of 2020 was supposed to be the first big in-person. We were going for it. Things were on pace, and then boom. So what went through you guys' mind of trying to shift and pivot that, right? Because we were having a lot of internal conversations. I remember I was like, wait, we're telling everybody to go virtual. We got to go virtual. Like, we have to do it. We have to pivot. Like, we have to, but we made a strategic reason to push it out a little bit and focus on our customers and things like that. So I want to hear your takeaway from that about the pivoting moment, what it looked like in 2024 EventNEXT.
This is for me, right? Yes.
Holy, I forgot how hard panel discussions are.
This is what we go through, everyone. No, I think Spencer and I were talking, and I think it was August 29th we were going to do the original EventNEXT here in Orlando at the Hilton off of iDrive. And I remember everything was just up in the air, just like every other event organizer, right? Everyone was just like, are we going to be open? Are we not going to be open? What is it going to look like? And then I think Spencer actually made the decision to push it back to June 4th because we're able to make, have it push back enough timeline. I think a lot of people did that, as you can tell, for obvious reasons. So
yeah, and
so, it was still going to be in person though.
That's what I was about to say. Wasn't there like this idea to still do in person? Mm-hmm. And I almost want to track back to that now because we had to pivot, right? You guys had to pivot and go, oh crap, can't do the event. Well, in Florida, not quite as illegal to do the event as it was here. But you were like, okay, we're not going to do the event. We're going to push it, and we're still going to go in person. But then there was a decision made, right, on the team that said, okay, we're just going to pivot. It's a virtual. Mm-hmm. Why was that decision made, and how did we come to that thought process?
It really was the restrictions from the hotel. I'll be honest. They pretty much said you can't do your event here, and that really made it easy for us to make that decision. So they worked with us. We're actually already scheduled for next year to be able to do the event at the hotel. They're going to be great partners of ours, but it was unfortunate. I think we all had a moment where we were very sad that we weren't able to, do our first event in person. I think we just really like to interact with everybody and want to, meet people in person. I think there's a lot of value from that component. So it was hard, and I think we certainly pushed back on it and tried to figure it out. We said, okay, well, is there another venue? Can we do something outside? Like, we really looked at all the other alternatives, but at the end of the day, it was seemingly impossible. And so, yeah, we ended up having to go virtual, and it might have been for the better. It was a little bit easier to plan. We could talk a little bit about that if you want to, but there's so much more that goes into an in-person event, versus a virtual event. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's funny. People are all over the place trying to come together and plan virtual, and it's like they're losing their mind. But I'm like, guys, in person, in my opinion, is probably harder to plan. There's more moving parts. It's just a different mentality when it came to virtual. So once we pivoted to virtual, we also made other decisions, right? And so some of those decisions aligned with, look, if we're going to go virtual, we're going to go big. So we partnered up with one of the largest, if not largest, in Orlando production companies.
Certainly in Orlando, maybe even in nationwide. Yeah.
Yeah, so we partnered up with OPAV. So those of you who are looking at us going, that production was next level. I saw reviews and stuff going, you guys didn't just put on a visual on-screen production, but there was an on-site production and things like that. It was like, guys, there was a lot of thought. If you track back to some of our episodes, we wanted to give you something good to look at, but high production value, right? So really, I'd love to, Patrick or Mitch or Spencer, either one of you guys, all of you guys, why was that decision made? Why was the decision to actually spend the money, good Lord, spend the money to actually invest in production?
If I can say, they were, and then you guys can take it from here. I just want to preface with, they were always a partner for the event. So they were going to do the, actual equipment on site and do the production for the hybrid event that was in the hotel. So I just wanted to make sure that was,
and I think one of the biggest reasons that we decided to try to make it as professional as possible through that amazing production that we had, it kind of stems from what we just touched on, where we really wanted this thing to be in person. The hybrid component that we wanted to add to the event was always just to use our software, like Spencer mentioned before, to kind of like walk our talk, and really the inception of EventNEXT came from everyone on the team's love for events. So at the time when this decision was made to first originally host the conference, we're attending 8 to 10 events a month. And we're just trying to get our feet wet and really better understand this industry, because that was really how ViewStub was started, was just everyone on the team loved attending in-person events. So, it's kind of touched on already, but as soon as we realized that due to local restrictions and out of respect for our guests and potential attendees, we weren't going to be able to host an in-person experience, it was a no-brainer that the virtual component that we were now making the full-fledged event had to look the way it did. It had to be as professional as we put it on, and it was a lot of fun doing it. So.
Yeah, and it was broadcast quality, which got better.
Well, it goes back to doing the episode of Virtual Event Fatigue, because all virtual events look like this. There's all four of us on the screen, right? Yeah. And that's what everyone else does. Everyone's tired of looking at the Zoom setup, just like it's kind of a little bit hard probably to watch this because it's the same as every other event.
Shout out to the podcast.
Subscribe.
Subscribe right now. No, bringing it into a studio is definitely a lot better. It's a better experience. It's different from most virtual events.
I mean, we got a lot of feedback on it. What you got?
Well, I just remember that OPAV actually set up the LED wall recently. I mean, it was not something that they had, even during most of COVID. And so things kind of fell into place as well. I think even though we wanted to go virtual, I don't know that we had a plan for how that was going to play out. And we just knew that we couldn't do it in person. And so, I think if you kind of are challenged with things, you'll find solutions. And it was one of those things, man, where we were still trying to figure it out. And up to the last minute, as you know, Dylan, that the night before. So.
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of events,
Exactly.
No such thing as perfect planning. Things are going to come to the wire. And, the 24 to 48 hours pre-event are always hectic, no matter what you plan for. So let's break down a couple other big decisions that were made leading up to the event, because there was another one that we've been asked about or called on, and Patrick and I have done a whole show on this, and everyone knows my feelings. But then I came to you guys and said, hey, we're switching this whole thing up. And everybody looked at me. I remember the meeting, and I was like, no, we're going to free. And we were like, wait, what? And I was like, no, hold on. We're going to switch this a little bit. We're going to just change tides because we're going virtual, because we can get out to everyone. We made the decision to get rid of that paywall to decrease the friction for you guys to get the content in sessions. We took it upon, like, we realized that we would actually be doing a disservice if we couldn't get it out to more people just because we put a paywall in it. So we weren't looking for that payday, right? We were held true to wanting to add value to you guys, but at the same time, I was like, wait, we're going to get rid of the paywall. Right, we had a VIP option. We do the, what's it called? What's the cool word? Freemium?
Freemium
event. Yeah, we did a freemium event, which is a super interesting model for you guys hosting events like this, to have that free, almost, for lack of a better term, if you want to get nitty gritty, data collection, right? You get all these different leads and prospects potential, but then you get the freemium model where they can upgrade and get that VIP experience. So.
I know that was a tough decision for us because originally we were looking at the budget, and as an early stage company, when we first started doing this, it was like, okay, we have to be able to pay for it, and it was never about really making money. It was about kind of paying the bills, so to speak, like being able to pay for food, pay for the venue, pay for other things that are associated with in-person events. But it's a perfect case study in that we were able to look at it again and say, well, we can afford to do this without charging, right? And so I think it came down to that. And like you said, it was really about us just wanting to give back to the community, right? And I know that was one of the main reasons that you brought that to our attention, and then we all really agreed and rallied around that, and it made it such a better event. We had a lot more registrations than we ever planned on having in the early days, so it was a really great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of registrations, let's segue over to these two gentlemen on my, got them, money. I always get this wrong. Speaking of registrations, because we opened it up free, you two were really powering getting those registrations in the door, right? So what were a couple things we did as a company and as an organization, as an event, to get the word out about EventNEXT that folks could either replicate, duplicate for their own events or anything? So I'll start with you, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, just to reiterate, it was definitely a tough decision switching over from the original format to the free format. But once again, it gave us like a perfect opportunity to provide value to the people who actually wanted to attend the event. So it kind of started off with just equipping the speakers with everything they needed to promote the event to their target clients and their potential followers. That was pretty much step number one. So we just wanted to make sure that the value was portrayed to anyone and everyone who saw anything EventNEXT related. That was through the speakers, that was through our own marketing initiatives, through social media and email marketing. And really the main focus of the event solely became the content and the value that content can provide. We brought in over 30 speakers from around the globe who are speaking on everything from best trends in event tech to best practices in throwing live events. So there was something for everyone to learn. And I think everyone who attended EventNEXT walked away with a few new skills to then they'll be able to provide those to their new events. And kind of that was kind of how that worked out. So it was perfect because while we did have to remove that paywall, we were able to provide additional value. So it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Patrick, what about you? I know, because you played a heavy role into some of the creative outlets of getting this event to folks. What were some of those creative ideas and strategies that we deployed to gain more registrations for EventNEXT? There's a couple of them.
It was really just being omnipresent with the marketing. I think we talked about in the marketing episode that like people just think if they throw out one flyer and talk about it 3 times that people are going to know. I think, one of them was, just to name a few, we had everyone on the team and the ViewStub team put join us June 4th at EventNEXT on their LinkedIn profiles. Every time they liked something, it showed up on feeds all the way to the banner on the website, because we get tens of thousands of visitors like every week on the platform. So why not put it right there, right? All the way to this show right here, just talking about it on the show and in the community. And it just goes to just always mentioning it and being omnipresent. And then we just didn't have this one little plain banner. What did we do? We made speaker flyers, and we talked about what those speakers are going to talk about. So, we educated people on why they should come, who's going to be speaking, and, what would be in benefit of them on the education piece. So that was just to name a few. I think we could go on a little bit more, though.
I know we did Clubhouse too, and we brought them on this show as well. And just created as much content as possible around the event. You said throwing out flyers. I remember we actually printed up all the flyers with the old dates, and the back of my business cards had the old dates and everything, and they still do because I'm not going to throw those away. And so I remember at one point having to throw away a whole entire stack. And I think it's on my LinkedIn. I took a video because I was very sad. I'm like a recycling nerd. And so I was like, oh man, I have to throw all these away. It was funny because, even the ones that we printed for the next one, we couldn't really pass them out because of COVID and things like that as well. So we tried anything and everything, being that it was our first event. But we could even talk about things that didn't work that I know we tried.
Name a couple.
We have that great affiliate link feature, right, in the platform, and it works really well for paid events. But when we switch to virtual, what's the incentive for people to really share it out for you, right? You have to come up with a promotion. And so I think that was something that worked for some people, but didn't work for others. And I think we thought it would have more success. And so, you live and you learn. And so we certainly have a good playbook for next year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then it goes to Patrick's point where we didn't just tell you once and expected you to see it and actually do it, right? There was other thoughts. If you want to get real tactical, there was times where you would show up on the website, but then go to Instagram and see an ad, or Facebook to see an ad, right? We didn't allow you to only see things once because we understand it takes 5 to 7 follow-ups. So I wanted to make sure we pull tactical stuff out of this. Like there was retargeting campaigns being thought of. We would email blast you guys to send you to our website, and then that website, once you go there, guess what happens? We show up on your Facebook, we show up on your Google, we show up on your Instagram. So we deployed, like Spencer said, we deployed everything. I swear, we pulled out every tool that I think all 4 of us know in our tool belts. Like Patrick down here is a whiz at finding giant email lists and getting those to convert, right? So we were sending out just cold emails from Patrick saying, hey, want to invite you to this cool event we're doing. Like that was it. That's all we had to do. But it was just, we were constantly testing and trialing things. And so I do believe we have a lot more. We could do a whole session on this, on marketing and things like that. But I want to move towards, I want to ask all 3 of you guys, because I am, everyone who knows here, I do events a lot of times, but for the 3 of you, really, this was one of your first events that you've really thrown and hosted, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like you've probably been a part of
them in the past, and I had one as a company before. But if I could say real quick before we switch topics on that last one, if it's okay, I think the event went really well, right? And I'm very happy with the results, and I kudos to the team. But I do think there was tons of stuff that we also talked about doing that we didn't necessarily have time to do because we were so focused on growing ViewStub. And I think that's a really interesting point, is that we didn't have enough time necessarily to get to every single thing we wanted to do. And that could have been creating a video. I know we talked about creating a video that we were going to use to promote. And then it might have been that we wanted to have more press releases. It could have been all these things, right? And I just want to say, because like as a case study, you don't have to get to everything, right? You don't have to be perfect. You can really just do as much as you can. And then now all of those assets that we have, we can use again next year. And it's really about being consistent. So for anyone out there that's looking to host their first event, I always try to let them know that you don't have to get it right the first time. There will be a next time. And I think that's our thought process on this as well. After being done with it the first time, it's in the books. I think I saw that in a few posts, it's in the books. I felt really good about that kind of narrative because it is in the books. And now we get to read from that script next time, which is so much easier. We have so many things that we can use again. And now we have all these great partners as well. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. So speaking of it being really, I guess probably we've all probably done events in the past, but what from each of you, just quickly, like what do you think is your biggest takeaway from planning EventNEXT in particular? So I'll start with Patrick, and then we'll go Mitch, and then we'll go Spencer.
Just I think, as we say on like almost every episode, it's a lot more work than you expect to get people registering. I know we were doing so much marketing, and it's like, oh my God, there should be more people registering, right? Of course, we had a ton of people register and attend the event, but it is a lot more work than you think it is my takeaway from it.
Yeah. Mitch,
and then also time. You just got to do it too. So I threw that in there.
Yeah, aside from, I'll be 100% honest, aside from what we did at EventNEXT, really the only types of events I've ever helped throw are music related. And that obviously is a lot easier because depending on the artist, the crowd and the attendance can be pretty self-sufficient, not to mention utilize a promoter. So from that aspect, we were always paid before we even showed up to the event. Obviously, it's not a good look for us if there's only 10 people there. But usually, as long as the promoter does their job and it's made aware that that specific artist is coming to your town, you don't really have to worry as much about attendance as we did for EventNEXT, right? No one knew what EventNEXT was. It's never been hosted before, and it was our inaugural event. So my biggest takeaway from the entire process is just to accept and embrace the chaos. Like you said, the couple weeks leading up to the event and even the 48 hours, 2 days before the event, I mean, we're sitting there at OPAV Studios, and I've got 19 people talking to me about 27 things that they need right now. And it's very stressful. But that feeling after the event is over, when we were at our official after party at Ice Bar, it is, it's very hard to describe. It's indescribable. It's a great feeling because it's just a culmination of hard work, and you really sit there and you've embraced the chaos that the event was. And now it's just kind of smooth sailings after that. So that's my biggest takeaway is you're going to get stressed out trying to host a conference. Things are going to happen. Problems are going to arise, but tough people are going to prevail, and just embrace the chaos that is the event industry.
That's right. What about you, Spencer?
I love what Mitch said. He kind of stole some of my talking points, but I agree with him wholeheartedly. And it was crazy because, just thinking back, we had several different event coordinators from the beginning, right? So we started with one group, maybe it wasn't as qualified as we thought they were, and that was fine. We mutually parted ways on that one, and switched to another group, and then ended up ultimately with the group that was able to execute for us. But I know that even with their scope, there was some things that we didn't understand needed to be included in that scope, right? And so then we had to bring our team in and really pick up some of the gaps, and fill in those areas. And so I would say, like, to kind of echo what Mitch was saying, is there's things that you will never see, even if you had, a time machine, right? Like, even if you could go forward, we threw the after party in the week before, right? Like we literally planned the after party the week before, which was crazy. And we had to talk to the venue and do all that. I know that half our team was sick, right? And half our team couldn't be there in person, which was the plan. And it was just thing after thing after thing. But you just have to have faith that the people that you have behind you are the ones that are going to make it happen. And I know that the biggest thing that I know from events is that the audience normally has no idea when things go wrong.
That's right.
And so just put on the right face, right? And you can typically, those things will be brushed over pretty seamlessly. So, just try to think about that if you're organizing your events, because you might know that you didn't get to do this one thing. But if you don't show that on camera or in any other way, then no one else will know it. So that's the one thing that I would recommend, that I know that we did too. We had some things that we had planned to do. We just didn't have time for it. Even on the day of, it was in the agenda. But for some reason, we were just running around and we just didn't do it. But no one knows, right? And so that's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right. There's been times in my event life, and even in this one, where there's things that you guys will never know we went through, or that members on this team had to go through to pull this thing off, and that's how it should be, right? That's your job as an event planner. I've said it before. The best event planners anybody can plan an event. That's easy. Problem solving is the hardest part. So. Definitely, this was just another a notch for me that says problem solving is key. No such thing as perfect planning, and that just do what you can and put that face on, like you said. So, look, I love it. So we're gonna wrap this up because we all got work to do. Spencer yells at me when I don't work.
Back to work.
Yeah. So I want to wrap this up just on a high note. We talked about some ups, we talked about some downs, but. What was, and I'll start with you, Patrick, what was your favorite takeaway moment? Not your biggest takeaway or anything, but just like your favorite thing about doing EventNEXT?
I think it was just seeing the feedback from everyone that they enjoyed it. And then also bringing together the team. The day of, having the whole team involved, bringing them into the studio as much as possible. They love it because we have such an incredible team. And so they get to see kind of like what it's like in real time instead of, in the office or at home just coding the platform, right? So being, seeing their faces when it's like, whoa, we don't get to visit the studio all the time, right? And seeing it in real time was just awesome.
Yeah, our developers know ViewStub as in code, but you guys know ViewStub in the form of videos and production studios and everything. So it was really cool to see their heads go, what in the world? So what about you, Spencer? What was your favorite moment, takeaway, aspect of EventNEXT?
I mean, I'm always about the team. So that was definitely my highlight. But there is one thing to be said about, starting from zero and then being able to actually complete, a project. That's just one of my, overall passions. And so, from when we had the idea, when it was on a piece of paper or, in a conversation, and then being able to look back from then and realize, wow, we did it. You know what I mean? And it was bigger than we ever imagined. Because I know when we first did it, it was like maybe 200 people was our goal, which is, we multiplied that extensively. So I think just being able to see, the progress is really something that I'm always really excited about. And then the future, being able to say like now we get to do EventNEXT 2022, right? Yeah. So and that's going to be a little bit easier. So when I was able to leave the after party and go home and sleep, that was amazing. Being able to sleep for more than a couple hours in a night is always nice. So
yeah, I feel you. And last but not least, Mitch, what was your favorite aspect, component of EventNEXT?
I think my favorite thing was honestly working with all the gentlemen over at OPAV. They really do run a really tight ship over there, and it's a beautiful studio, and it's an even better company. So they're very accommodating, very hospitable. And I just really appreciated all their help from start to finish with all of the production. There's a lot that goes into it once again, and they really did put a lot of the event on their back. So I really appreciate everyone over at OPAV Studios. But honestly, to touch on what Spencer said, I think my biggest and favorite thing about the event is just knowing that EventNEXT 22 is going to be so much bigger and so much better. So looking forward to the future and looking forward to having this thing in person next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, so we're going to wrap this show up. But before we do, let's give the folks a little bit behind the scenes footage from EventNEXT. Love it. Well, look, folks, that was just a little behind the scenes. Yes. The official big recap video of the entire event will be coming out next week. So I'm excited to unveil that to you guys. Gentlemen, another good episode in the books. Make sure you guys are following us at EventMASTERS Show on all social medias. Make sure you as well, okay, I should have flashed this like 18 years ago, but text us, EventMASTERS, at 407-214-5335. For those of you who have joined and joined into that text community, appreciate you. A bunch of you joined from EventNEXT, so thank you for that. And gentlemen, any last words? Because I got to run.
The EventMASTERS Mastermind is coming up.
Oh,
how can we get everyone on the wait list?
Hint, hint. Mitch will actually right now, after this show, put guys the wait list for the EventMASTERS Mastermind. That was launched at EventNEXT. So was the studio. You guys will see more of that coming out here soon. So
I know we had a good number of people sign up already for that as well.
Yeah.
So some of the speakers, that were at the event are going to be some of our first speakers, including Kevin Harrington and Marcus Murphy. So look forward to that. That's going to be a really fun time. It's going to be kind of like hanging out like we are today. But my last words would be just thank you to all the speakers and all the sponsors too. They really put it on their back, did a great job promoting the event for us, and really just did a great job knocking it out of the park with their content. And then, of course, if our team is watching, I want to say thanks again to our team for having a great event.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to everyone who came, registered, worked, produced, marketed, shared, whatever you did to help us for this event. We definitely appreciate you guys. This has been another episode of Event Masters. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on all social medias. And with that being said, see you guys next week.